Hello everybody, welcome, whenever, wherever. So today I'm here for part 2 of the active cycles presentation, and so it will be mainly about Pluto and Eris, whereas also to a certain degree about the previous cycle I described of Eris and Sedna. They are around that time of that Pluto-Eris conjunction, starting the last square. So, as that all hangs together, I had to include it at least a little bit. So, we go right into it and we'll switch to the PowerPoint presentation. I just only have to click right onto it. So, again, just as a little reminder, the solar system, as we know so far, the inner planets, the asteroid belt here between Mars and Jupiter, and then Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, here Pluto, near the Kuiper belt, which is out here, and here you can see Eris, and here Maki in this picture. So, and those outer planets, you can see Pluto, as it has been reclassified to be a dwarf planet, so he is now the biggest in volume, and Eris here, she's actually bigger than Pluto in the meaning of mass. So here the fried egg, Haumea, Maki, Quaoar, Sedna, and others. Those are the ones, from my chart readings. And we go to see again the entanglement we have here within the orbits, just as a little reminder. So, then can go on right to Pluto. Pluto is called the Phoenix Rising. So it's all about death and rebirth, not only in the physical way, but a lot on, let's say, psycho-emotional occurrences, and what we keep inside, what we keep hidden, to raise it to the surface in order to become aware. So this is a transformational energy, because once we actually deal with the things that we hide inside, or maybe not even aware of, but these things, once dealt with, once we start to do this inner work, it's transformation. So, Pluto was discovered in 1930 by William Herschel in his garden he was watching through his telescope the skies, and he discovered it. And at the time, he was at around 23 to 24 degrees Gemini. Sedna was in Pisces, in square, and at that time Neptune, perihelion, which is the closest to the Sun. So his axis data is the Gemini Sagittarius axis and Libra Aries axis. It means this perihelion aphelion axis is kind of the intention axis, if you want. The aphelion is comparable, not exactly the same, but comparable with the IC and perihelion with the MC personal chart. So it's a bit what the intention or the ground, the roots, and or the foundation, and then what we promote, what we are most public with, yeah. And so Pluto is most active at his perihelion, most influence, but aphelion is a lot of influence too, because it's where he goes to, let's say, recharge, if you want, the home. And North and South Node, they are the way of action, yeah, for us, or interaction with Earth and us. So, Eris, you saw already last time, she was perceived as the goddess of strife and discord, chaotic. But, well, yes, it is disruptive energies, but it's for the purpose of revelation, of eye-opening, to see the reality in situations. And often we are not ready, we don't want to see the truth about something, and so we will have kind of things that will force us to look at it. So here it is. That's how she works. This is important. And when you put these two energies together, yeah, transformation, revelation, or the reality of things, I would say their collaboration is pretty obvious and maybe really transformational. Now let's see chart. Their exact conjunction was on 7th of January in 1757. So also quite a long time ago that Eris Setna exact square occurred about 7 years before that in 1750. So it's, when we look at this chart, yeah, we can see here is this Pluto Eris conjunction here. This is the sting of Scorpio. Here is the galactic center, and here they are a little bit away from it in late Scorpio. But Pluto is up here more in the constellation of Ophiuchus, and there is very close. We do have, as so often here, Neptune in Cancer. So he has just passed this nodal axis again. And we can see he is opposing Saturn here So Saturn is also on his nodal axis, giving emphasis on Neptune's theme again. And as I said last time, I have looked into it a little, that Neptune's nodal axis, that goes normally, it does move a tiny little bit with precision, but his aphelion and perihelion axis is kind of like changing all the time. And it's interesting to see that it mainly goes in that three, in between the three signs, that he also has his conjunctions with Pluto, which can only happen in those signs because they have to meet when, even so, it looks like they are at the same place, but due to the distance they actually have, and they need to meet that, otherwise they would collide, and that would be quite disastrous. So for this, it was very interesting to see that. What it really means, I don't know. I will keep on reading about these things to understand it better, but yeah, it's interesting, and he's the only one doing this. So I don't know why, but it's for sure something to keep researching about. So, back to our chart here. We also can see that Earth is here in Gemini and is opposing here Chiron and Mercury in late Sagittarius. So it's interesting to note here that Gemini, Sagittarius, that is an axis that is often be observed with some nodal axis, but more often so in with the perihelion, aphelion axis. See, there is many planets with this axis, not only in the late degrees, or also in the earlier degrees, but I thought it interesting that there is such an emphasis on this axis. So then we have Pallas, Athena. Yep, can't see it so very well, yeah, because it's written over it, the star names, yeah. So this one here, that little red dot here, that is Pallas, as you can see also in the constellation of Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is said to be the master healer. Some people would say it's a highly spiritual constellation. In my point of view, they all can be very spiritual. So they all have their own meanings. Yeah, some are maybe more manifestation or earthbound than others, but so Earth for herself is can be perceived as a spiritual mother, right? So there is nothing that does not have that kind of aspect within. Well, But yeah, Ophiuchus for sure, for all of Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio is so close to the galactic center. We are talking about themes like self-mastery in the meaning of self-healing, becoming aware of those own themes within. And also letting go. That is not only a theme of Pluto himself, but it's also a theme in this zodiacal area. It's like putting that what we do not need, what does not serve us in any way, onto the altar, if you want, of surrender. Just surrender, let it go. Don't let it hurt you anymore or bother you anymore. All this kind of attributes, right? So we have now, in this time, we are in the last square with Pluto and Eris. It will go on for quite a while, as you can see. It's the next conjunction will be in 2115, so less than 100 years from now, but still quite a while. So we have here a little bit of a discrepancy. How do you pronounce that word? Between the heliocentric and the geocentric chart. It's not much, but in the geocentric chart, we can see that Pluto and Eris are both in the retrograde 10. So it means that as seen from Earth, it appears as they would move backwards. They don't, but looks like. And so they kind of might make like little curves, if you want. And because of that, it looks like they would go backwards. So because of that, they already had separated out of a little bit out of the square. So they move around nearly back to that point and then go both straight again. So that's the curse. And in heliocentric chart, we don't see it like that. We see they become like slow, but they don't go back like minus speed or something like that. No, we see them always progressing, but very, very slow. Even slower than usual. So that's what happens. And because of that, in the heliocentric chart, we are already moving out of that exact square. I mean, we are still in square, but not as exact anymore. So, and the last square means the last quarter of such a evolutionary cycle. It means we are in the harvesting or let's say realization time. So we find out what it was all about, what we are harvesting, what is it that it was all about. And energy also means similar as to the whole cycle theme, that it is about noticing that and integrating that into towards the maintenance, towards the seeding, yeah, because before we will be in conjunction again, will be the seeding time where we have to grow anew or to seed for something new to be growing. Yeah. So that is the energy. That's why we have so much going on worldwide, because it's revelation time, if you want. Yeah. On all levels. How we act about it. There were always people ahead of time, as we like to say. People who have discovered, asked questions, had visions, ideas, but many have been silenced, suppressed, ridiculed, and some even killed, just only because they challenged the status quo. Nowadays, even so, it's still going on at times, but I think too, because of where we stand nowadays, it's not as easy anymore for those who are interested in suppressing such ideas to be successful. So it's different, and we can learn from what has happened before, right? The past is nothing bad, but it's on the other side, so nothing to be too excited about or wanting to go back or thinking it was better now. No, but we can learn from it. We see that many things are repeating themselves, and so we can learn from that, and we can nowadays appreciate many of those people who, or their discoveries, who were not able to see their success in their lifetimes. But we can. Yeah? So, as I always say, it all hangs together, right? So, as we know, Neptune is always somehow involved, either personally or with axis points, or even both. And so he will be involved again personally with his conjunctions with Orcus and Varuna in 1764 and 66, which we'll talk about in the next video. So that interestingly, not only we had that Eris Setna last square started in 1750, we also had in 1755 Orcus and Varuna conjoining each other, and it was like one of these interchange of speed. Yeah, so they met, and then they interchange speed, and so on, and then they meet again. And so as I explained last time, sometimes then because of this interchange they can't meet, but sometimes due to these interchanges they can meet more frequent and then go back to their normal frequency. So it's either way, it's interesting. as the two also bring their energies into it, as long-term cycles do. So, but what actually happened in the 1750s? Well, it was for sure a significant time. It was understood as the pre-industrial era. It was like more in the 1760s, those Neptune cycles, yeah, that there was the actual start of the industrial time and revolution. But in the 1750s, also interesting, it was that many countries changed in those maybe 10 years or so. They changed from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. They did it on different dates with different setups how they actually did that. But they did it pretty interesting and a significant change, I guess. So there was also 7 Years' War. Then there were a lot of cultural changes. Significant it was that the first of them, it was the Louvre Museum in Paris opened, and then many other countries followed, that they would actually then make it possible to the royal art collections and so on to display for the general public to see. That is a major change, yeah, because before it was all kept to them. Now they opened up and let the public take part, and that is a totally new kind of energy that was there, right? And one thing that I read, I found it very funny. They had at the University of Glasgow, they had a professor for logic. So I thought it very funny. So they also had a new systematic botanical textbook, and a lot is still in use nowadays. And a little bit later, something similar came up for zoology, and the term Homo sapiens was first used in that time. So another interesting thing, it was that Pope Benedict XIV removed astronomer Galileo Galilei, who died in 1642, from the blacklist of scientists who were talking and teaching about heliocentrism. Unfortunately, Nicolaus Copernicus, Johannes Kepler, and more, they were still on that blacklist, not allowed to read their works or studies. So, but at least there was a little bit, it went into that direction to open up a little bit, like also the museums and all these kind of things. You see, it was the first step into another time. Things like that, they don't happen overnight, right? It's process. It involves everybody, yeah. Until the majority of people are going into such a direction, it will be all a little bit difficult, yeah. It's there are those who want to keep on to the old systems, to the old energy, to the old way of doing and thinking and so on, and then there are those who start to move on and show how how it can be also done differently with some part. But so such changes take time. So there was another funny thing I read. I forgot in which year exactly it was, but the leaders Prussia in Germany, they forced their peasants to grow potatoes, and it was they used terms that it was unpopular, popular, obscure potato. So nowadays it's one of the main food resources, right? I thought that actually funny. I didn't know that it was. I had thought it was much longer before that the potato came to Europe. So it's very interesting. Anyhow, for now, I think that's all about Pluto, Eris, and consorts. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation, and it seems it is much shorter than the last one, which was my intention. So now stay tuned for part 3. Until then, I wish you all the best. Please feel free to share, subscribe, to push that little bell thingy, and so on. And I hope I see you soon again.